Fox News Podcasts presents the Bret Baier Podcast, Common Ground.
There are a number of senators on the Republican side that continue to want to find common ground.
We emphasize the conflict and controversy sells, and I think that's a problem because most Americans look at Washington and see something that's broken.
Why don't we look for ways that we celebrate what this country is capable of doing?
It's amazing what you can do when you get off social media and you start talking and communicating with one another, because there is common ground.
With Fox News chief political anchor Bret Baier.
On tonight's Common Ground segment, the rapidly changing world of college sports and the issue about a national standard possibly for name, image, likeness, NIL standard. Joining us tonight are commissioners of the four major conferences: Greg Sankey of the Southeastern Conference, Jim Phillips of the Atlantic Coast Conference, Tony Petite of the Big Ten, and Brett Yourmark of the Big 12. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. I just want to talk down the row here for all of you to weigh in on why this national standard for NIL is so important. I'll go from left to right. You all just weigh in about how important this may be for Congress to get involved.
Well, Brett, first of all, thank you for having us. And, you know, from where I sit today, the federal preemption, having a standardized platform that oversees and governs NIL is critically important. Today, 34 states see it very differently, and it's relatively unruly. And for us to have a level playing field for all of our schools, having a national standard that, you know, obviously provides federal preemption to some of the state laws is critically important.
Yeah, I mean, just the volume of laws that are being passed on a state level are just making it really difficult for us to regulate and compete nationally. Like every single time someone doesn't like a ruling or something coming from the NCAA, we end up in litigation. Those rules then, get abrogated, and we're back to the start. So we're hopeful that the combination of what we've done in the settlement and the case that we're settling now will give us an opportunity with some help from Congress to really put a system in place that has stability.
Brett, I think for the four of us, we absolutely understand the responsibility we have. 500,000 student athletes have benefited through about $4 billion a year annually for scholarships. This is the heartbeat of Americana and the Olympic movement and the Olympic team. We feel strongly that you need, if you're going to have inter and intrastate competition across the country, you have to have a national standardized rule as it relates to name, image, and likeness. If not, the chaos in the system will only continue to be greater, and it will be absolutely a terrible place for college athletics to stay in. We've made a lot of good progress over the last several years. We feel like there's a better destination and a stabilization coming forward, but we need the help of Congress and national legislation.
I'll just add, we just finished 3 great weeks of March Madness, the Final Four. Congratulations to Florida on their men's basketball win, at least for the Southeastern Conference's perspective. To do that, to have a College World Series, to have a college football playoff, to have national championships, you have to have national standards. The system doesn't work with 50 different approaches, which is what's happening through state laws being introduced and adopted. We also face a variety of litigation efforts, and those need to settle out so we can get back to managing what's really special about college sports.
We'll hear more after this.
I know you all met with Senator Ted Cruz. ESPN had this write-up saying Senator Ted Cruz of Texas said he's not interested in saving the NCAA. Instead, he wants to give college sports the legal runway they need to save themselves. College sports officials fear that the industry's richest schools will soon have an unsustainable competitive advantage if antitrust lawsuits prevent the NCAA from enforcing regulations that create an equal playing field when it comes to recruiting. You know, the numbers you talked about, the annual compensation for starting football players in the millions. You look at these conferences, it really is stunning. And I think people don't fully appreciate the money in sports. I talked to former Alabama football coach Nick Saban about this recently on Special Report. Tickles.
Really, you go to college to create value for your future, and I want the quality of life for student athletes to be the best it can be, and I think they should have a seat at the table, and I think they should share in some of the revenue, but I think it needs to be, equal across the board so that a school that can afford more can't create an advantage for themselves just because they have more money to spend.
Commissioner Petite, it seems like it's very complex here. You know, there's a lot of moving parts to try to get this to a solution.
Yeah, I think the first important step is we've crossed the bridge of being willing to provide direct revenue to student athletes. We're going to rev share pursuant to the settlement. I think that's something that's overdue, and I think everybody's embracing it. It's just the rules around that system, how players move. If you compare, the professional model, there's all kinds of rules about player entry and player movement. We have the portal, players can move. That's a good thing. Players should be able to go play where they want to play. But just the nature of having some idea that states and others aren't weighing in to incent kids to go to certain places for competitive reasons. Like, we need to have some structure. You just can't have a system that has complete unregulated movement, unregulated transactions. So that's what we're trying to accomplish, while at the same time making it better for student athletes. There's going to be a lot of compensation going to student athletes, and they're going to be able to, to realize the value they're contributing.
What about the shift in all of your conferences? That's obviously affecting fans and, who they're cheering for and where they're going. Commissioner Yourmark, you want to weigh in?
Brett, listen, as a conference that has welcomed 8 new schools over the last 2 years, we love where we are today. We're 16 strong. We're in 10 states. We're a national conference. And my attention right now has been to integrate those schools, very comfortable where we are, and really putting most of my energies right now in coming up with a sustainable solution for collegiate athletics. And hopefully the movement that we all experienced over the last couple of years is behind us, and we can focus on the real issues.
The other two of you want to weigh in on the other issue that obviously I hear a lot about, is that the portal and the jumping around, and does that have to be addressed too?
It really does, Brett. And it's a byproduct of this idea of freedom of movement. Coaches have freedom of movement. Commissioners have freedom of movement. Professors, presidents, why shouldn't student athletes? But it was never meant to be in a position where a young man or woman goes to 4 schools in 4 years. And we had done such a really good job prior to this, kind of open movement with graduation rates. And we don't have enough data just yet, but I think it'll be sobering when it comes back. And that should be the impetus for all of us to get together, to get some standardized rules, allow student athletes the freedom of movement, but not to the regularity that you see, again, 4 schools in 4 years.
For me, from a transfer standpoint, you look at 3 factors: the time to graduation, the quality of the education, and the likelihood of graduation. We are bringing people into our program. Sure, they compete diligently in sports, but they are at an educational institution working towards a degree. And the more you transfer, the longer it takes to graduate based on research. When you look at transfer GPAs prior to transfer versus after, historically, there's been a diminishment in the grade point average. The quality of that education can suffer as credits are lost, because transferring on multiple times starts to inhibit the ability to select the academic program that may have most value, most meaning for someone. And then the likelihood. The more you transfer, the less likely you are to graduate based on research. Those need to be part of the conversation, not simply the ability for an individual to jump from place to place. Sure, course correct. I did that twice in my college career. Not exactly a stellar athlete, so I respect that ability, but there has to be an academic core to what we're doing.
Finally, I just ask all of you together, I mean, you think that this can be solved. It's complex, but you think it can be solved with the help of Congress?
I do, Brett. I think we all do. We wouldn't be here as often as we have been. Listen, this is not only an issue that's really important to us. We feel like the congressmen and women that we've met with understand the need for there to be some intervention and to allow us some assistance. It's too important. As I said earlier, 500,000 young people have access and affordable opportunities in higher education that may not have ever had access to higher ed and had it be affordable for them and their family. So we're motivated to get this thing done and stabilize college athletics.
There's such a passion on the Hill for what we do. So many of the members of Congress have had incredible experiences at the colleges they attended, and they understand that athletics sits at the front porch of those institutions and it drives everything in the ecosystem. So I think I speak on behalf of my colleagues. We're very optimistic we can move forward in a sustainable way. But again, we need help from Congress.
Well, I speak as a fervent college sports fan, and I wish you all the best. Thank you for coming on and expressing some of this, and we'll follow how this goes. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can see all the Common Ground segments on my podcast, Common Ground. Find that and the All-Star Panel podcast under the Bret Baier Podcast at foxnewspodcast.com, Spotify, or wherever you download podcasts. You can also see the extended discussion on the Fox News YouTube page.
Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app.